And also as well, if you are really turned on, then it might be the case that your clitoris is really sensitive, so it probably doesn't need that direct stimulation. Remember, the clitoris isn't just this little bud, it's actually a much bigger organ. So the clitoris actually more looks like this. So the part that you see is just a little bit, but there is so much more of the clitoris that isn't seen. Hi, my name's Charlene Douglas and I am a sex and relationship therapist. Today, I will be answering some of your questions from this beautiful honesty box. Okay, so what is an orgasm? So this is a really good question, and the reason why I say this is a good question is because people normally kind of mix orgasm with ejaculation. So if someone doesn't see ejaculation or ejaculate, they think, oh, I didn't have an orgasm. But you can have an orgasm and not ejaculate, and you can ejaculate and not have an orgasm. They don't always have to happen at the same time. And sometimes people think that there's something wrong if it hasn't happened at the same time. So an orgasm is a peak of sexual arousal. So your body is so turned on, that sexual charge is just working through your body, and then you'll have that kind of pelvic floor, rhythmic, contracting, relaxing, and your whole body just feels amazing. Now, there are lots of different types of orgasms that you might experience. There's a coregasm, which people might experience when they do exercise. There's even an ear orgasm. You know, your ear can be stimulated and that can turn you on. So yeah, play around with it, see what your body can do, but try not to put too much pressure on the whole having an orgasm. Just enjoy the journey. So normal amount of sex to be having. So oftentimes I'll go to a bar and people find out that I'm a sex therapist and they'll say to me, how many times should you really be having sex, like in a week? And they're all waiting for my answer. Everyone leans in, waiting for me to give that number to work out whether they're in the normal range or not. So statistically, once a week is usually the average in most relationships. But of course, that kind of goes up and down depending on stress, depending on finances, depending on whatever's going on in your life. It could mean that that might change. So if you're not having sex in your relationship, it doesn't mean it's all doom and gloom. It might just be that you need to have a conversation if that is something that's important for you. So what are the most common fetishes? I would say threesomes are probably kind of the main fantasies that people have. But recently I've found that more and more people are interested in voyeurism. So they are getting really turned on by other people watching them have sex. So there's a couple that I was working with that had said that they really enjoy having sex in hotels, but it needs to have a window where people can see them. And they found that really a turn on. So yeah, so I think anything to do with voyeurism has become more and more popular, most definitely. Although there have been probably the whole time I've sort of worked as a sex therapist, there have been about 3 or 4 people that have shared the same fetish with me. And I'm probably shocked every time I hear it, only because it's so rare and it's so different. So there's one particular guy. He said that he really enjoys smelling his woman's vulva, like inside, like he likes lips apart, nose right in there. But he said for him to get really turned on, it needs to be really smelly. So he prefers, like, for example, I'm laughing when I say this, and he actually thought it was funny when he told me the story too. But he said that when he first told his girlfriend about this, she was really shocked. But what's happened over a period of years is that she has become quite turned on by this fantasy, this fetish as well. He doesn't quite know where it came from. He thinks that when he was a teenager, there was a dare, and the dare was that he should smell some like smelly knickers from a woman. And he did it. And I think he noticed from that he became sexually aroused. Okay, is the G-spot real? Okay, again, another good question. So from a medical point of view, there's no research to show necessarily that there is anything called a G-spot. What is being referred to here is a kind of spongy area, sort of higher up into the vagina. So usually, you know, sort of 2 to 3 inches into the vagina, you can feel like a kind of like spongy area, and that's considered the G-spot. So most people with a vagina will know that when that area is touched or stimulated, that it just feels more more exciting. It feels more stimulating. But is a G-spot real? It's an area within the body or within the vagina that can be really stimulating, but there's no medical research as such to show that this area is called the G-spot. Okay, so most effective sex position. Effective for what, I suppose, is my question. So a lot of people say kind of like doggy style is effective in terms of having an orgasm, and it can be very sexually stimulating because so if you're the person that's sort of bent over, the position can feel really nice. You can feel there's a sense of vulnerability there. And for the person that's pounding behind, they get to see the visual of your bum in the air, arch back, and whatever it is that they want to see, so whether it's the penis or the vulva, they get to see that before they enter as well. And usually people say that they come quickly from that position as well. It's probably not the most intimate position because you're not looking into each other's eyes, so you can't really tell what your partner's feeling as such or thinking. But in terms of kind of the physical bang, 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 get to the point, oftentimes people say that is the one that they will go for. I've never gone down on a girl before. Where do I start? Okay, so the key is to ask your girl what she likes. Now, the reason why I say this is because it might be that you were the licking pro with your past girlfriend, but you're now with a new vulva, a new vagina, a new clitoris, a new person. So it's important that you ask her what it is she likes. It might be that she wants you to lick her clitoris and finger her at the same time, or it might be that the thought of you putting your finger inside her as you're licking her clitoris makes her feel absolutely eek. So the only how you will know how to do this correctly for her is to ask her exactly what she likes. You can also sort of test it. So whilst you're going down on her, maybe you can kind of like listen to how her body is reacting to it. You might want to look up and kind of see if she is enjoying it or not. You know, you might hear her groans. Make sure you're hearing the right groans. Make sure the groans are because she's really enjoying it and not because she is not enjoying it. But, you know, it's important to kind of like test your way around to make sure you're doing this right for her. And after being with her for a period of time, I'm sure you'll be just the pro that she needs. Hopefully. Do men or women cheat more? You know, I think statistically, men cheat more. But what I will say is that some might say it depends how you define cheating. So if we're talking about kind of emotional affairs, some might say that women might be more guilty of that than men. And by that, what I mean is, look, let's take it back to like the workplace. You might have a work husband, a work wife that you really get on with. And there might be a part of you that kind of knows that, we're not having sex, we're not kissing, we're not cuddling, but there is a bit of an emotional connection that's a bit uncomfortable, that's a bit inappropriate. Sometimes things like that can kind of get a little bit complicated. And I think that if you are someone where you know that, yes, I'm not actually physically having sex with someone different outside my relationship, but I am having a bit of an emotional connection that's a bit inappropriate, then it's your responsibility to move yourself away from that. So back to the question, do men or women cheat more? I think statistically, men are known to cheat more, but I think that women sometimes cheat in a different kind of way. How do you tell someone they're bad in bed? I mean, let's unpack this. What is being bad in bed? I suppose essentially what we're saying is that this person isn't meeting our sexual needs. Now, my question would be, have you told them what turns you on? Now, before you say, well, it's not my responsibility to tell them what turns me on, they should know, they should explore my body and work it out. Well, I would disagree with that. I would say that it's important for you to know exactly what turns you on, and it's your responsibility to make sure that your partner knows that as well. For example, if they are touching your clitoris a little bit too much and it's painful, then it's for you to say to your partner, hey, can you just maybe like touch like a little bit lower or not so direct onto the clitoris? In fact, this is probably a good moment for me to show you the clitoris. Okay. So this is not only the clitoris, but this is, we've also got the whole vulva, right? So if your partner is rubbing the clitoris and you're feeling that actually this is a little bit too much, It's your responsibility to say, hey, babe, like maybe can you touch some of the lips, like the labia, or maybe can you put a finger inside, as opposed to allowing them to just rub away for England. You don't want them to be doing that, because that can be quite painful. And also as well, if you are really turned on, then it might be the case that your clitoris is really sensitive, so it probably doesn't need that direct stimulation. Remember, the clitoris isn't just this little bud, it's actually a much bigger organ. Okay, are you ready for this? Okay, so the clitoris actually more looks like this. So the part that you see is just a little bit, but there is so much more of the clitoris that isn't seen, but still requires stimulation. So what that means is that when you're stimulating the labia, you're actually stimulating the clitoris inside. It's your responsibility to tell your partner exactly what it is that you need and what you want and what you enjoy. The vulva. Okay, so how common is erectile dysfunction? So let's look at what erectile dysfunction is. So erectile dysfunction is having issues with having an erection, essentially, so getting hard. And that could be because there's not enough blood that's going to your penis. Now, that could be for a number of reasons. And sometimes it just happens every now and again because you're a little bit stressed, because you've had a bit too much alcohol, or because you're worried or tired. What can then happen, though, is performance anxiety can kick in, where you start to think, oh my gosh, I've got a problem. And then, of course, you tell your brain that you've got a problem and it will listen to you. And then what you'll find is that every time you're trying to be intimate with your partner, or maybe even when you're trying to masturbate, that the erection isn't happening. So any kind of issue where you've got blood flow problems or like nerve damage, that can have an impact on your erections. So the first thing that I would say is that if you do notice that there are problems with erections, definitely go to your GP, because it could be a sign of something medical that's going on there. But from a psychological point of view, it is about allowing your body to relax. Now, the reality is that erections will struggle to stay hard and to maintain if you are stressed, because the body needs you to be relaxed. In terms of how common it is, it's very common. Most people feel like when you're older that it happens more, and of course statistics would suggest that is the case. But in my practice, a lot of young men come to see me with erectile dysfunction as well. So it is a real problem, probably because we live in quite a stressful society as well. Why do I enjoy lesbian porn as a straight woman? So sometimes as a straight woman, you might watch lesbian porn and it might make you think, wow, do I want to have lesbian sex? And it can make you kind of question your sexuality. You could absolutely be 100% straight and just enjoy lesbian porn. So a lot of the women that I've spoken to that do watch lesbian porn, they find it more female friendly. So it's not so rough. They enjoy that another woman is pleasuring another woman, because, oftentimes women know how women want to be pleasured because they are a woman themselves, so they know what feels good. So I don't think it's about questioning your sexuality if indeed you enjoy lesbian porn. In fact, I know straight women that enjoy gay porn as well. They find that very much a turn on, because ultimately it's something different. And that's what our bodies need and our minds need when it comes to sex. We need something a bit novel, something a bit different, something a bit exciting. And sometimes when you're used to being with a man, there's something exciting about watching women have sex together. And nothing wrong with it. Bit different. Okay, so most common turn-ons. So I think most people will probably say oral sex. I think when you speak to penis owners and vulva owners, they will often say that having their genitals kissed, sucked and licked is very much a turn-on. So I would say oral sex. I think probably number two is probably dominance. There's a lot of people that talk about confidence being a real turn on, and they like to be dominated. They like to be told what to do, to, where to stand, where to position themselves. And there's more and more people that are saying that that is actually very much a turn on. So I know that a lot of guys will say that they're women initiating sex, saying that they desire them, saying that they want them, taking the lead can be really, can be very much a turn on. So I'd say dominance and confidence is probably number two. Okay, so I can't orgasm. Any advice? So I think the first thing to do is to get the word orgasm, put it into a nice little black bag, tie it really tight at the top, and then throw it out the window, and focus on the journey. Think about the sensations. Slow down sex, slow it down. Really enjoy being touched. Have a think about where you want to be touched. Sometimes what people find is if they maybe have like a blindfold, that then helps them to be more in their body and not so much in their head. If you shut off like one sensation, it heightens others. I've got a lovely little pink blindfold for you here to have a look at, just in case you don't know what a blindfold is. So, putting a blindfold on can really help you to like not look around, not be like over analysing what your partner might be thinking or what they're going to do next, or are they really enjoying it? But it allows you to really just enjoy what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. Remember to have the conversation about blindfolds because they can be triggering if you have been through any kind of sexual trauma. So if that is you, make sure that this is something that will add to your sexual world in a positive way and not trigger you in a negative way. Okay, blindfold, that's the one. Okay, should I tell my partner if I have a wank? Well, look, I suppose it's about privacy versus secrecy. Now, if you want to have a wank, so we're talking about masturbation, then you have a right to have a private life. I don't think you have to announce it from the rooftop. Hey, babe, I'm about to have a wank right now. I don't think you have to do it necessarily. However, if there's shame attached to it, if you feel uncomfortable about what you're watching on a porn site and it means that you are wanking to that and you're keeping it a secret from your partner, then that doesn't make for a healthy relationship. So do you need to announce it from the rooftops that you're having a wank? No. But if there's a shame attached to it or you're doing something that you feel like actually you shouldn't be doing, then that needs to be explored and spoken about with your partner. How can I stop myself coming so quickly? So this whole coming so quickly, it's important for us to look at like what we're measuring it against. Now, if you're having a really good time, your body's really excited, then naturally it's probably going to come a bit quicker than you probably wanted it to, which is fair enough. But I suppose if you feel like you're coming too quickly, you have to think about the stimulation. Are you being overstimulated too quickly? What do you need to remove? What stimulation do you need to remove in order to kind of really enjoy the sexual experience a little bit longer? So again, it might be like trial and error to work out what your body may or may not need. So for some people, they say, for example, if you're having penetrative sex and you find that you're really coming and you've got a penis, it might be that you might put a condom on, or it might be that you might use some desensitizing cream, or it might be that you notice that a particular sexual position really gets you turned on and you don't want to come so quickly, so you might want to try a different sexual position initially. So it's a case of trial and error to work out what's required in order that you don't come as quickly as maybe you have been coming. Who in society are having the best sex? So statistically, lesbians are having the best sex. Why? Because there isn't a sexual script that tells them exactly how things should go. They're able to just do what works for them. And they have the most orgasms, the most fun, according to research. And I think for heterosexual couples, there is this sexual script of what sex should look like, that the man should initiate with the woman, that the woman should join in, but not too much, that the man should always be hard throughout, that the woman should be like really desiring her man. And as soon as he comes home from work, she should be ripping off his clothes and like desperate for the penis, and all of those sexual stories that we've seen on TV over the years. But lesbians, they're just having a good old time. They know their bodies, they know each other's bodies, they're taking their time, they're having the most orgasms, there's no kind of like taboos, they're just having fun. And according to research, they're having the best orgasms. So, lesbians. How do I stop gagging during a blowjob? Good question. This really is a good question. I suppose the thing is this: if the penis is touching the back of the throat, then it might be your gag reflexes are saying, no, maybe not so deep. So maybe it's about having the penis not so deep in your throat, that it kind of touches the back of your throat. So maybe sort of adjusting how you take the penis in your mouth. Also, it might be that your partner might need to have a think about what they're eating, because of course what they eat and what they drink contributes to the taste of the ejaculate. And that could be something that, is causing some kind of reaction in your mouth or kind of making you feel a little bit sick, even if you're really enjoying what you do. So try different things. One, don't take the penis too deep in your mouth, because that could be what is creating that gagging effect. But also have a think about, from your partner's point of view, what they're eating, what they're drinking, to make sure that the ejaculate is nice and healthy and tastes lovely. And there is something around having grapefruit. I hear that grapefruit allows the ejaculate to taste nice and tasty. Enjoy. Is porn dangerous? I think it can be. I think if you don't know enough about sex and you think that by watching a particular scene in porn that is real, that's what's supposed to happen, I think it can be quite dangerous. For example, situations where I don't know, a woman is being gangbanged by, 7, 10 men, that could be a great sexual fantasy if you know about sex, you know your body, you know who you're choosing to be a part of this. Consent is very much in the mix there. You're having safe words and they know what the safe words are. So if you're in pain or feeling uncomfortable, that you can say a safe word like red and they know to stop straight away. Unless you're having that level of conversation, you may go into a gangbang because you've seen it in porn and think, hey, let's do this. And you can put yourself in a really dangerous situation. Equally, we know that porn can be a lot of fun, but I think that you have to take it for what it is, and that is entertainment. Okay, tips for trying anal. Okay, are we ready for this? So the key is to use lots of lubricant. I've heard so many horror stories, usually with men and women. I feel like gay couples probably have it on point much better. They kind of know what they're doing. But what will happen is you'll have a guy, heterosexual relationship, and he will say, so I heard that actually anal sex is really good, like the hole is tighter, more friction because it's drier. Let's try it. The woman says, okay, yeah, let's do it, because she wants to please her partner. And then she is screaming in pain or just finding it really uncomfortable. So she has to say, hey, let's just stop this because this is not working. And then everyone's feeling really disappointed. But actually, if you use a lot of lubricant, if you're very gentle, if you take your time, anal sex can be absolutely amazing. The key is also to kind of relax the muscles, relax the anal muscles. So using lubricant, taking your time, maybe using your finger just to kind of like stimulate the anus. Those types of things are really important. Then if you're putting in the glands, so the head of the penis, you're doing that really slowly, you're taking your time and you're building up, you're listening to your partner, listening to, are they enjoying it? Is their anus relaxed? What you don't want to do is just to go in like a sledgehammer and not really think about the fact that actually this is not pleasurable for your partner. And then you can take it to the next step. Once you kind of understand what it is you need to do and you've got really good communication with you and your partner, you can maybe introduce like anal plugs, so anal sex toys. There are some great ones that vibrate as well. So it just allows all those sexual organs to have the most fun. So it is still taboo, anal sex, particularly within heterosexual relationships. But I think if you can enjoy it and relax, it can be the most thrilling sexual experience you'll ever have. How would you define a healthy relationship? So open communication, trust, loyalty, boundaries. I could go on forever. There's so much more in terms of healthy relationships. But ultimately, you want to be in a situation where you feel comfortable to be yourself. You don't want to be in a situation where you're feeling judged, criticised, disrespected, belittled, all of those kind of unhealthy traits in relationships. You want to feel free to be your own vulnerable self. You want to have someone that protects you, that loves you, that defends you, that supports you, that supports your dreams. I think in terms of a healthy relationship, though, there might be times where if your partner's going through something, they may not be able to give you all that you need. But it's for you to kind of make a judgment in terms of how you feel. Oftentimes, we don't really listen to our bodies in terms of how something is making us feel. And I think actually our bodies often tell us whether we feel emotionally safe in a situation or not.
What we can do is to pull the tissue out like that, or also to squeeze the single testicles a little bit like that. Or also we can take it like that, so kind of make a ring around the base and then tickle the underside like that. So these are just some of the strokes, there's many more.